Hello， 大家好，我是东南，欢迎来到零下56。今天我们要采访一位前移民官，他以前是专门审批怎么来加拿大工作，怎么来加拿大上学，怎么来加拿大移民的这样一个移民官。现在呢，他自己退出了政府的工作，想要成为一个移民顾问。他是非常有经验的一个人，因为他呢有移民官的经验，然后现在又在学移民顾问，所以我们觉得在他身上可以学到很多的东西。我们会问他一些观众朋友们非常关心的一些问题，比如说穷人可不可以来加拿大，比如说上了一些年纪的人能不能来加拿大上学，怎么移民等等。如果大家喜欢类似的内容，千万要关注我们这期的节目。我们现在呢就准备来连线他，用我的笔记本电脑。如果你是第一次来到我们频道呢，我们主要是讲解一些加拿大移民相关的知识。如果你对类似的内容感兴趣，别忘了订阅我们的频道。话不多说，我们现在就来联系这位前移民官，现在想要成为移民顾问的这样一个朋友。
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you very well, Victor. How are you doing?
Okay. Pretty good. You are in Calgary.
I'm in Calgary.
Calgary, nice.
Yeah,
good.
right now it's 7 p.m. and Vancouver I think it's 6 p.m. right? It won't last long. It's gonna be around like 45 minutes, something like that. Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
So, Vector science, like most of the audience gonna speak Mandarin or Cantonese. So I may ask you questions with English first, and then maybe I speak a little bit Mandarin there to repeat the question, but only the question part. So for most of the speaking part, I'm gonna only speak English with you. Yes, it's great to have you, Victor. It's very nice to have you. And 你可以介绍一下你自己吗？
Okay, first of all, I just want to say what an honor, what a pleasure it is for me to be on 56 Below. It's a very popular site, so it's thank you for inviting me. A little bit about myself. I am what your Cantonese speakers would call a Lo Hua Q or Lao Hua Tiao. I was born in Vancouver. My parents immigrated to Canada back in 1950, 1955. So I'm a child of the immigration process. I have over 13 years experience as a visa officer and a diplomat, posted in places like India, Hong Kong, and Beijing, covering all different types of immigration categories. And then after that, I changed my career to work for large Chinese consulting companies. So I was based in Beijing for roughly another 13 years. Currently now I'm based in Vancouver, and I'm working on getting my professional immigration consulting license. So let's see, do the math here. That's a lot of years in immigration. I would say going back to 1994.
Yeah.
But actually, even before that, I can remember as a little kid, my father always helping family and friends with their immigration matters. So you can say that I've been exposed to immigration pretty much all my life.
So I can tell like you are an expert about immigration, right?
I'm afraid to call myself an expert because it's a subject that is so, well, you know yourself, it's very wide,
right.
Very broad subject,
yeah.
And it's always changing. So I try to know as much as I can. I would say that really for the last, I'd say 15, 16 years, I've been working mostly with Chinese clients, 大部分是中国人的客人. So I'm very familiar with Chinese clients.
请问你审批最多的移民项目是什么？或者说中国人最喜欢的移民项目是什么呢？
Well, first of all, you got to understand, like China, China is very diverse.
Right.
Okay, so you have, so what's a Chinese? Well, a Chinese could be a student. Chinese could be a very 有钱的人, very wealthy 投资移民的客人 in investment immigration. Chinese can also be skilled workers. Okay, so these, I would say these have been a very popular ways. Okay, students can transition to permanent residence. That's a very popular way.
Yeah.
China is known for success in business. So you're going to have many wealthy people who would go through investment, for example. The one remaining 投资移民项目 is the Quebec investor program. But that's always, every year is a very limited number. And then you see more and more Chinese applicants going through business immigration or provincial nominee programs. And of course, always there's a lot of skilled worker applicants as well.
Right. So it's really hard to tell, which one is the most popular program, right? It really depends on who you are and what your background is. Is that true?
That's exactly true. And I would say that the benefit about Canadian immigration is that there are so many programs, okay? And it's just like you're going to a store. Oh, do they have my size? Do they have my shoe size? And
right.
With Canada, as opposed to the other countries, I would say that there are many, many choices, many, many options. It's almost like we will find a program for you. It's very custom made like that.
请问什么样的文件准备，或者说怎么样准备文件才会最让你满意呢？
Okay, well, I think that as a visa officer,
right.
Okay, number one, okay, when you apply for a different program, there's going to be like a document list. Okay, we need A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, so the first things first, you got to make sure that you've got all the requested documents, and of course, I mean there's always situations when you can provide A, B, and C, but you don't have D. Okay, just make sure that you explain why a certain document cannot be provided. Okay, so basically completeness of the file is very important. Secondly, the order, okay? You have your requested documents, you have your supporting documents, okay? Putting everything in order. I know it sounds common sense, but just remember the visa officers and their assistants, they see so many files, and if everything is messy, okay, then that's difficult to assess. So I think that preparation is also important, because there are some programs where an interview is required, okay, and that's I cannot say enough how important it is that you go through interview prep, okay, and yeah, I mean all of this is just to say presenting your information clearly in a way that the officer can understand.
请问一下，是不是加拿大大部分的移民或者说大部分的签证申请都不需要面试啊？
For most, yes, because one big difference between the Canadian program and say the American program, the Canadians, they want to do everything as much as possible on file. Okay, whereas like if you apply for a U.S. visa, everyone gets interviewed.
Right.
Okay. So in that general sense, yes. On the other hand, for some cases, like a business immigration, like a PNP, the interview process is very important. In fact, for many PNPs, you must go to the province and meet with officials, okay, and convince them of your business plan, and then after that, you have to have an interview with a provincial officer, and then it's almost like a sales pitch. In Canada, there's a show called Shark Tank, where you have your business proposal and you're trying to convince them. Okay, in some sense, it's a similar kind of exercise. So in those cases, yeah, interview is necessary. But on the federal case too, on those rare instances. Sometimes, if an officer isn't happy with what's on the file, they may call you for an interview. But you're correct. Yes, most cases interviews are not required, but there are situations where interview may be required.
我想问一下，你们移民官之间有没有分项目啊？比如说，这个移民官就负责学生签证，那个移民官就负责工作签证，或者说这个移民官只负责专业的移民，有没有这样分得很清楚
？As an officer, you get exposed to all different kinds. Now, I'll use myself as an example. Now, my first posting, I was in India, and first they started off giving me family class applications. So I would be interviewing a husband who's sponsored by a wife. Okay, so a lot of family class cases, and then after that, I also did temporary resident visas, visitor visas, student visas, and then after that, I also got exposed to business immigration. So officers throughout their career will be getting a taste of everything, like a buffet.
Right.
Okay. I've talked with my former counterparts with the American embassy, and it's totally different with them. The person who interviews you for a visitor visa, for example, or student visa is with the State Department, and that's all he does, just that one part. And other types of immigration, like EB-5 or whatever, that will be done by USINS, the actual immigration service. So it's a different system. So in the Canadian sense, the officer that you get will have good exposure to all different types of categories.
我想问一下，是不是只有富人才有机会移民加拿大？资产不雄厚的人，或者说没钱的人，还有机会吗
？That's a very good question. That's a very good question, and it's a very loaded question. In a perfect world, we all have the same chances, the same opportunities, and that sounds great.
Yeah.
But in the Canadian immigration world, there is some truth to that. Well, for one thing, money is important. Okay, you have pretty much all the programs are linked to some kind of financial component. Family class, you're sponsoring your parents or a sibling or whatever. You must show that you meet what's called the low income cutoff point. You have to have sufficient money to support the whole family. Temporary resident visa. Let's say you want a visitor visa. Oh, I want to visit Niagara Falls and all that. The visa office will say, show me the money. Okay, how are you going to pay for this? How are you going to pay for your expenses and all that? And then you look at something like business immigration, okay, or PNP, where you have to have a minimum personal net worth, or you have to make a minimum investment, okay? And of course, skilled workers, you have to have settlement funds. So all these categories, yeah, money is important. But it's not so simple as 越多越好. Right? The more you have, the better. I think that the problem, having enough money is not a problem for Chinese applicants, okay? Showing where that money came from, okay, now that's where it becomes problematic. So the term is called source of funds or provenance of funds, basically where the money came from. And to a Canadian visa officer, to his or her point of view, if let's say your personal net worth is this much, but you can only show with your pay slips and taxes, you can only show that you've earned this much. So this extra bit here that you could not show, the officer will just assume that it's illegal, and will have questions about your source of funds. So that's a simple way of showing why money is important. It's not just how much you have, but how you earned it.
如果一个人没有好工作，但是很有钱，这样的人可以申请加拿大的签证吗
？Yeah, as long as he can say how he got that money and he can show that it was earned legally. For example, no permanent job, but he has $1 million. Let's say that he's got money from his family.
Right.
Okay. Money from his parents, money from a rich uncle. Then the visa officer will want to see, okay, well, can I see some proof of your parents' earning capability, some proof of your uncle's earning capability, okay? And as long as you can show that that money was earned legally, that's not a problem.
如果一个人又没有工作又没有钱，那么他还有机会申请加拿大的签证吗？
There is a small chance.
Yeah.
I don't want to say.
No chance.
I don't want to say poor people don't bother applying.
Yeah. Yeah.
不好听. Okay. But in your example, you have a poor guy, no job. Okay. To go to Canada, you need to pay for the airfare. Okay. You want to visit Niagara Falls. Okay. Hotel. Okay. Expenses. So all that money. Okay. You need to show me that you've got that money. So if you show me poor guy, no job, and he gets money from his dad, his mom, his uncle, his brother, his sister, okay, all these different sources, even then it might not be good enough. Okay, because as a visa officer, I would ask, hey, you're taking money, hard-earned money, 2 years salary for your parents, money from your uncle who's a farmer, all these different sources, just so you can go see Niagara Falls. Okay, so from a visa officer's point of view, yeah, Niagara Falls is beautiful, but I'm not going to make such a financial sacrifice just to see Niagara Falls. So the visa officer will think, well, it doesn't make sense to spend so much money just to see Niagara Falls. It makes sense if he arrives at the port of entry and he seeks asylum. Okay, so from a visa officer's point of view, he will have serious doubts that this person is a genuine temporary resident.
我问一个好像听起来很矛盾的问题哈，因为加拿大是一个移民的国家，但是很多的朋友在申请学生签证，或者说申请工作签证，或者说申请旅游签证的时候呢，都被说是有移民倾向而被拒签，这听起来好像有点矛盾，因为我们是一个移民的国家嘛，为什么还会说你有移民倾向而拒签你呢？
Yeah. It's what you have identified here is like inherent contradiction with the whole process. Canada, immigration country, please come in here. And, we have someone who wants to visit or wants to study. And if that person appears to have immigration tendencies, refuse. Okay. It seems to be a bit of a contradiction. The way that Canadian immigration law works is that to issue a visa, okay, a temporary resident visa, temporary, the key word temporary. A temporary resident could be a tourist or a student or a temporary worker. Okay. The visa officer, now I trained visa officers in Beijing about this. The first thing you have to ask, the first thing you must find out, is this person a real temporary resident? Okay. Now, in many cases, when they feel that this person has immigration tendencies or seeking asylum or whatever, is not a temporary resident, then they will refuse. Okay. Everyone, of course, who visits a country, they may have that idea. Okay. However, I got to say, when you apply for that temporary resident visa, you cannot indicate anywhere in your application or in your study plan, oh yeah, I feel like I want to immigrate. That's like an automatic refusal. Okay, so I don't want to tell people that they should lie, but when you when you apply for a temporary resident visa, you must make sure that you indicate that you only want to visit or you only want to study there, and then I will return to my home country. Okay. Yeah. Repeat after me. I will return to my home country.
Okay.
And then, and the funny thing is, once you arrive at the airport and you tell them I just want to study and I will return to my home country, once you get past the airport, you can start planning how you want to immigrate, because in the same immigration law, you can study. And then after you can study, you're eligible for a work permit under the postgraduate work permit program. And then the time you spend studying in Canada, the time you spend working in Canada, that time can assist you with the residency obligation part of permanent residency. And Canadian law is kind of funny in that way, that they have to separate these things. On the other hand, I have to say that Canada, if you want to work temporarily in Canada, or if you want to study temporarily in Canada, and then you want to transition to permanent residence, I have to say it's much easier to do that transition in Canada than in the U.S. Okay, so Canada fortunately has ways for you to immigrate after you've accomplished that. But just one caveat, just one warning. When you apply for that first visa, just make sure that you indicate that you will return.
Yeah, I got you. So at least before you apply for the study visa or study permit, you are trying to come to Canada only for study, right? Because you want a higher degree, you want to be in a different country and pursue the good quality education. But maybe after you enter to Canada, you feel I love Canada. Maybe I wanted to stay, right? So that's a whole different story there.
Yeah, and that whole different story that you pointed out is exactly what Canadian government, Canadian immigration policy recognizes. Because honestly, who do you want to immigrate to your country? You want someone who is educated. You want someone who is educated in at least one of your two official languages.
Right.
You want someone who's lived in Canada, who's spent money supporting the local economy, who's working, paying taxes. All of this is the perfect immigrant. So how can you do that? Well, if you make it attractive for someone studying temporarily or working temporarily to transition to permanent residence, then that's the perfect way to get good quality immigrants. Another point about Canada, I think that Canada is especially friendly or favorable to Chinese. The Chinese in Canada, and you know this now since you've been here for some time, is you find Chinese anywhere.
Right.
Okay, you find Chinese in all the big cities, even in the small cities. Canadians, they love Chinese food, they love Chinese culture. So I think that for Chinese to become part of Canadian society is quite easy compared to other countries. I don't want to say that there's no racism in Canada. Racism is everywhere, but you find that there's a lot less in Canada than in a lot of other English-speaking countries. Of course, the U.S., UK, Australia. So I think that Canadian society is more open and more friendly to Chinese.
一般来说，留学18岁啊、19岁上大学是比较正常的一个年纪，或者说大多数人都在这个年纪上大学。但是如果我们有观众朋友里，他有30岁了、40岁，甚至50岁还想来加拿大上学，您觉得这个还有可能性吗？
Okay, I cannot lie and say that age is not a problem. Mm-hmm. Okay, because get into the mind of the visa officer. Okay, you have this applicant. 33 years old. He's got a job in China, and now he wants to take a college program, a 2-year diploma program. Okay, so the first question I will ask as a visa officer is, well, number one, first of all, he has to be a temporary resident. He will go back to his home country. So how will this 2-year diploma help you with your career back in your home country? Okay, so as long as you can explain why you need this 2-year program, okay, as long as your explanation makes sense, okay, then I think you have a good chance. Okay, if it's something that is, I don't know, 2 years. Let's say the person is an engineer in China, and now he wants to take a 1-year diploma course in bakery. Okay, learning how to bake bread. Okay, his explanation better be good. It better make sense. Okay, the key takeaway here is everything has to make sense. So that's why a well-written study plan is very important. The study plan will explain to the officer why I want to quit my engineering job to learn how to bake bread. Okay, it better be a good explanation. Okay, but I can think of other situations. Let's say that he's an engineer, and there is this special computer CAD engineering course offered at BCIT, British Columbia Institute of Technology. This course is actually hard to get into, but he got accepted. And this course is like, leading edge, very high tech, very modern type of technology. Yeah, sure. That makes sense. He will take that. He will go back to China with this advantage, and then he'll be able to compete for higher paying jobs and so on and so forth. Yeah, that makes sense.
如果英语不好的人还有移民的机会吗？或者说英语不好的人还可以移民吗？
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I mean, there are English requirements. Okay. But it also depends on the different category, right? Some categories have lower requirements than others. Now, I think that in China, English language is quite English language courses and study is quite popular, and it won't be difficult to find additional lessons, but. I would say that now the English requirement is something that you really need for English or French is something that you really need for immigration to Canada. But in my opinion, and from a practical point of view, I think that if you go to some places where there are large Chinese communities, then you won't have a lot of pressure to be speaking English all the time.
Right.
Okay. That's not an ideal solution. Okay. But, if you come to Canada and all you do is go to Toronto or Vancouver, that's not a genuine Canadian experience. Okay. So, don't be afraid, be brave, step out of your language comfort zone, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. English won't be that hard.
请问一下，拒签的原因一般都有哪些呀？如果一个人有拒签史，他还有机会再成功申请加拿大的移民或者说签证吗？
Okay, I'll be honest here. Having a previous refusal is a big disadvantage. Having 2 previous refusals, 3 previous refusals, obviously a bit of a disadvantage, but it's not fatal. Okay. Now, if a client came to me and said, "Oh, I was previously refused. I would like to apply again," the first question I would ask is, "Why were you refused that last time?" Okay. Now, if you find out the reasons for the refusal, okay, then in your next application, as long as you address those concerns, or correct those concerns, then you should have a good chance. So don't be discouraged by a refusal. It is a big disadvantage, and it also requires more work for the new application. But it's not fatal, so don't lose hope.
Right.
But I must say though, if the reason for the refusal is something serious like misrepresentation. Now, misrepresentation can mean you lied on the application, you submitted a fraudulent document, or you left out some important information. Okay, all of that counts as misrepresentation, and in those cases, then you get what's called a 5-year ban. You cannot apply again for 5 years. So that's a pretty serious case. But in all other non-misrep refusals, I say that there's still a chance. And I know we're talking about immigration, and I have to tell you that it's very important to Canada, very important to Canadian society. Canadians, we're very proud of our quality of life. It's 比较舒服, right? It's very comfortable here, and a very high standard of living. But we will not have this high standard of living if we do not have enough people. Okay, and the Canadian birth rate, like many Western nations, is fairly low. So that's why we need more people. The real reason is we need more people to work and pay taxes. Okay, so it's this high quality of life. It costs money. So from a very simple economic point of view, immigrants are very, very important to Canada. So if you have that in mind and you think that you can contribute to Canadian society, then I think that you have a good chance.
如果有人在其他国家拒签了，比如说在美国拒签了，在澳大利亚拒签了，在这些其他的西方国家拒签了，他申请加拿大签证的几率还大不大？
That's not a simple question, because it also depends on what kind of refusal in those other countries. Now, the Western countries, they have a kind of like an agreement of information sharing when it comes to stopping terrorists or serious criminals. Mm-hmm. Okay, so in such a case, such an extreme case, the Western powers, they share this kind of information. Now, if you refuse for something much simpler, okay, less dangerous kind of reason, there's no way really that the Canadian government can find out. Okay, so I guess it's those serious refusals that would impact other applications.
问一个私人的问题，因为政府工作在很多人眼里，尤其是中国人眼里是一个铁饭碗。为什么你放弃这么好的一个铁饭碗而转行，或者说想自己做一个移民顾问呢？
I was with the government for 13 years, very stable 铁饭碗, okay, and I covered a lot of different types of immigration programs, applications, different kind of clients. My last posting was Beijing, and when I worked in Beijing, the posting is normally for 2 years. I extended for another year. I really like working with Chinese clients, working Chinese culture. Even though 我的中文不太好, I still feel at home in China. Working with Chinese clients. Following my posting in Beijing, I had to return to Canada to learn French, and then after that, I realized, well, my next posting will not be in China; will be somewhere else. I have to work in Ottawa. I really enjoy working with this kind of work, these kind of clients. I feel that I became an expert with Chinese type of clients. So immediately after I learned French, I decided, well, I think I need a career change. I moved back to Beijing, and I've worked with some of the largest immigration consulting companies. basically answering, similar questions as I answered tonight. I feel that it's not just my duty, but I feel like it seems like a family obligation, because, as I said, when I was young, my father always helped family and friends with immigration applications. I like the Chinese type of clients, and I feel that it's a way of honoring what my dad used to do too. So, I think that for those reasons, and as well, it's something that is a very personal thing. So I feel that I can help Chinese clients, for the rest of my life, and I would be happy.
That is great to know. And Victor, after you got your license there, maybe a lot of my fans and a lot of the audience from this channel are gonna need help from you. So hopefully you can help them.
Yes, I would love to. And I think answering your questions, I think that's I hope that will be helpful to your audience. And although legally I cannot be an immigration consultant right now, but I love talking with you, and if you have any more questions, or if your audience has any more questions, I'm at your service.
如果让你推广一下加拿大的话，加拿大3个最大的优点，或者说最能吸引人来移民到这个国家的3大特点是什么呢？
Okay, let's see. Number 1, quality of life. Okay, now that's not just my opinion. There's an influential U.S. newspaper called U.S. News and World Report. They've done a study along with a university, and they rank Canada, the quality of life, as number 1 in the world. So quality of life, that includes the air that you breathe, safety, the infrastructure, and so on. Number 2, education. I think that education system, although education system is not ranked number 1, like the UK or Ivy League in the US, the quality of education is still very good. In those other countries, you've got the Oxfords and the Harvards and the Stanfords, okay? They are very good. But at the same time, they also have some pretty low quality education. Now in Canada, the overall education system is fairly high. Okay, you have top universities like U of T, UBC, McGill. Okay, but even the lower ranked Canadian universities is still very good education. You look at secondary education, you look at primary school, all of it is very, very, very high quality. So quality of life, education, and then thirdly, I have to say healthcare. Okay, one thing that you will find that all the Americans are jealous of is the healthcare. Now, I had a friend who said, in the U.S., if you're walking down Manhattan and a taxi hits you, okay, and you're lying down and they bring you to the hospital, the first thing they ask you, sir, are you insured? Okay, if you say no, then you're out of luck. In Canada, the system is much different. Everyone pays for it a little bit in their taxes, and that's why, with universal health care, you have free access to medical care. You break your leg, they will take care of it. You need an operation on your knee, they'll take care of it. God forbid you have something serious like cancer, it's all taken care of. Similar situation happening in the U.S. You could be looking at a bill that's, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. It's not a good system, but the Canadian system is not a perfect system, but it's it's something that we're still very proud of. So in summary, number one, overall quality of life. Number two, education system, and number three, healthcare.
Right. Thank you, Victor. Thank you very much for your time, Victor. I guess that's all the questions I have here. And
you sure you don't have any more last questions?
Well, no, I do not have any more questions. If we talk more, maybe yes. So, but thank you very much, Victor, and especially for your time. And I wish you good luck on your study to get your immigration license. And I hope to hear your good news very soon. And let's keep in touch.
Okay, thank you so much, Dongnan. And I had great fun here. There were excellent questions, and I hope we can do it again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Victor. You have a good night there in Vancouver.
Okay, thank you.
Bye bye for now.
Yeah.
OK， 看了跟 Victor 的采访，不知道大家对加拿大的移民还有没有任何的问题？如果你们有任何的问题，有任何的观点，欢迎给我们评论。如果你是第一次来到我们频道呢，也欢迎你订阅我们的频道，我们会及时的给大家带来加拿大移民最新的资讯、最好的方法，还有呢尽力的帮助大家来到加拿大，以成功的移民加拿大。接下来几期呢，我们还会采访几个在加拿大不同的人，也会去加拿大不同的小镇看一看。我自己呢也会做一些加拿大移民相关的这个视频。如果你对类似的视频感兴趣的话，别忘了订阅我们的频道。我们下期见，拜拜。